Hello and welcome to Diplomata. I'm Francis Sune. When Timor-Leste fought for its independence, it had a twin. That twin country shared almost the very same history to Timor. They were colonized and then got their freedom. Not long after that though, occupying powers came in and took away that freedom from them. While Timor-Leste finally gained its full independence, the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic is still fighting for it up until now. Today, the support to Sahara is at the heart of Timor-Leste's foreign policy, and the solidarity to its people remain as strong as ever. In this episode, we'll hear from the Sahrawi diplomat who is currently representing his country in Timor-Leste. Thank you very much for giving us your time to do this interview and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Let me begin by asking you about your history, your background. Would you please tell us who you are?
Who am I? I am a Sahrawi, belong to the Sahrawi people from Western Sahara, Sahrawi Republic. I lived my childhood, my first years of childhood in Western Sahara just for 5-6 years before the occupation, the Morocco occupation of our territories. After that, we among many Sahrawis, me and my family, we had obliged to fled of the Moroccan invasion, taking in consideration that Morocco used air strikes to bomb the civilians, the unarmed civilians, killing thousands of them. During those hard days, I was, as a child, eyewitness of atrocities, of the tragedy, of the killing of my people by hands of the Moroccan army. As I told you, they bombed the civilians with napalm and phosphor, and the troops were killed on ground. The people, the injured people, were killed on ground, and they throw the live people from the helicopters. So. At least once I was eyewitness in Tifariti, it's village, it's Sahrawi village. I was a witness of these atrocities. I live by my eyes the people killed beside me. And me and my generation then were children. Many of them were struggling to overcome the trauma of these atrocities carried out by the Moroccans. So after that, we managed to reach to their border, to Algerian border, where we settled one of the first refugee camps, Sahrawi refugee camps in that territory. That territory is desert. For us, and we are Bedouin, it was impossible before. It was impossible. We cannot imagine that one day we can live in that desert. The conditions there are very harsh, very difficult conditions to live. Despite of that, by time we adjust. We could, and we managed to adjust to live in these very hard conditions, and not only managed to live, but we transform that desert to a kind of life where we establish and create a model of state, a very sophisticated model of state, Sahrawi Republic, with their institutions, parliament, government, presidency, and other, and sectors, service sector, education, health sector. At the same time, our army, Sahrawi Liberation Army, the fighters were on the front line, defending the civilians, the children, the old people against the Moroccan aggression. And what we did over all this year, for many international observers, has only one name: is miracle. It was really, and it is a miracle. We could finally establish the real state, the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, real state, which controlled a third part of our territory now, Western Sahara. Some of our institutions based on the liberated territory. At the same time, we managed to live in the desert, in the Algerian border, transforming this desert in a life. There is refugees who are administrating their lives, the public sphere, with success. So that I believe that only can be reached this goal because of the crucial role of women, of Sahrawi women. The Sahrawi women now play a decisive role in the Sahrawi state, in the refugee camps, and the public life. And I think it's very important to mention this reality. On the other hand, unfortunately, the population, the Sahrawi population who couldn't fled after the occupation, and they live now under the occupation in Sahrawi cities are subject of all kind of violations, human rights violations, abuses, rapes, torture. You can see that starting from speaking about myself, but ending speaking about the people, because it's very difficult to separate the personal life and the life of my people. Of course, after refugee, when I was child then, so I was sent by Sahrawi authority, by Polisario Front, to Algeria to continue my study there, and I graduated in Sétif University in the east of Algeria, one of the biggest city there. Graduated in economy, and after that I was appointed as a representative of Polisario Front, Frente Polisario, to Syria, Damascus, and its envoy, the envoy of Polisario to the Middle East. 2000, I back to the ministry, Foreign Affairs Ministry, the Sahrawi Foreign Affairs Ministry. I worked there in political department, and then I was sent to Spain to continue my study. So I got my degree, master degree in Castellón, Valencia, and I continued my doctorate in Granada, in other Spanish city. This is, you can say, this is in resume, this is my academic career. After that, I was appointed by the martyr President Mohammed Abdelaziz to work short time in presidency, and after that I was elected as member of Pan-African Parliament in south of Africa. 2010, I was appointed as the first resident ambassador, Sahrawi ambassador to Timor-Leste. That was June 2010.
You have been talking about your higher education. Let's go back to your primary education. You have mentioned the hard childhood period you went through. How was your primary education? How was it? Did you study in Western Sahara, and how did you do your studies, primary studies?
So then I study primary school in refugee camps. It was just the first 2 years, and I still remember that we study just in tent. We don't have classes, just a tent, and in very harsh conditions, very hard conditions. So, but the policy of Polisario Front, it was very aware about the importance of education, taking into consideration that we were as Bedouin and colonized by Spain. Spain didn't do anything in favor of educate these people. So we were the illiteracy was very high, more than 98% of illiteracy among our people. So nobody, the majority, the vast majority, they don't read, they don't write. So the Polisario Front, that's part of the miracle done by Polisario, that aware about this reality, one of the main objectives, goals, were educate the Sahrawi people. And during a very short time, maybe 1 decade, the Polisario Front managed to educate the people, and now there is more than 90% are educated. So this is a miracle. Maybe we are among the top list of African countries concerning the education. And even the sector, the health sector, there were huge efforts done in this sector. I mean, this field. Mainly the prevention policy, strategies, measures, procedures. So we were aware about that. So for us, it's more important preventing the disease than try to treat with the situation. So, and that was a part of our success plan in, for example, facing the epidemic coronavirus, COVID-19 now. If you have a look to this situation in Europe, we are very close to Europe, to the north of Africa, you can see that the statistics are really terrified. It's a terrific statistics. You know, many the cases that the dead people number is a huge number. The affected cases, a huge number of affected people. Among this region, our neighbors, we documented till now only six cases, death cases, and only 40 persons who were affected, but only 2 cases. All of them are recovered now. Only, I think there is only 2 cases, if I remember well, only 2 hospitalized cases, no more. So for us, that's a really huge effort, taking in consideration that we are living in refugee camps. Even in the liberated land and territories, we don't have such, developed mechanisms and developed equipments to face the situation. But our policy was concentrated on how we can develop the prevention measures to protect our population in refugee camps and in the liberated territories.
Tell us about your family life. How did you survive in that harsh situation and condition? How was the family life?
Speaking about the situation of the Sahrawi people, it's very difficult to liberate yourself of emotional feeling speaking about the situation. It's very sad to say that we live divided. The Sahrawi people live divided by the second longest wall, Moroccan wall berm that divide all the Sahrawi territory from the north to the south. It's the second longest wall after the China Great Wall. The second, with 2,720 kilometers. 720 kilometers. This is longitude of the wall. This wall separate the territory, separate the population, and separate families. Members of my own family live in Laayoune, the capital of Western Sahara, occupied by Morocco. And now the majority of the members of my family living under the occupation, we never could meet each other. And we are speaking about more than four decades. I was a child when I fled from the territory with part of my family. So my uncles, my aunts, my grandfather, my grandmother, my grandfather killed in Moroccan, died in the Moroccan prison. My grandmother died there. So a part of my family lived there under occupation. We never been managed to see each other, to meet each other. Part of them died, passed away, without having opportunity to meet each other. The other part living in refugee camps or in liberated territory. So living there, it's very hard. But this is for us living in refugee camps or living in under occupation. This is a part of the price we had to pay, and we always convinced that we are ready to pay such high price to obtain our legitimate goal, which is freedom and independence.
Just to end the conversation, how does it feel to you personally representing your country for your country's great cause? I like to speak about this issue. For me, it's a honor, and I consider myself very lucky and pleased to represent my country in Timor-Leste. For us, Timor-Leste was always present in our struggle, was always present in our resistance. We struggled together, and I still remember when the martyr president, the former president, the Sahrawi president Mohammed Abdelaziz, in 2002, when he came here with the Sahrawi delegation, and he addressed the Timorese National Parliament. I still remember that he said, Sahrawi people and Timorese people, we are not friends. We are more than friends. We are twin.
means that we share the history, and we share challenges, and we struggle together in the period of resistance against the colonialism, and after that against the occupation power. So what we have is in common is great in the past, and that's for us was a reason to be in the celebrating celebrating the independence, the date of independence, the proclamation of the independence, or restoring the independence on 20th May 2002. At that time, we were very honored to sign as Sahrawi Republic and Timor-Leste. We signed economic statement or communique signed by the way by the Dr. José Ramos Horta, then Foreign Affairs Minister, where we were the first country, I think, that recognized the Timorese as republic. I mean the independent young nation, and we established the diplomatic relation. In 20th May, the first day of independence, Timor-Leste recognized the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic and decided to establish a diplomatic relation, and after that go farther to open the embassy 2010, in June 2010, and I was privileged, I consider myself privileged to be part of this history and to be the first resident ambassador of Sahrawi Republic to Timor-Leste. The relation, the relation, I believe that the relation between Timor-Leste and Western Sahara is very special relation. Why? Because it said always that there is no permanent enemies, there is no permanent friends, but there are permanent interests. So that this role mentioned that there is always the most important is the economic interests. For us, I consider this our relation is the exception of this role, the exception, because what economic interest we have now, the Western Sahara in the northwest of Africa, and Timor-Leste in the far southeast of Asia. What interest we have now? What interest we have, these people and this republic? We still struggling, we still fighting to gain our independence. And Timor-Leste, young nation. So I think there is only one reason. Means that reason name the principle. So this relation based on principles and values of resistance, values of freedom, and political values. I think this is more important than the economic values. It doesn't mean that we are not planning to have economic relations. That's obviously, and we hope one day soon can have our independence on all our territories, and I have no doubt that one of the first decisions of Sahrawi Republic after gaining its independence is establish economic interest in favor of both peoples, both countries.
Thank you very much for sharing all this.
You're welcome.
Roxa, independência, demais, bamina e gás.
Política.
Sustentabilidade financeira.
Thank you very much for staying. You're still with us on Diplomata. First of all, would you please go back briefly to the history of the Western Sahara and Polisario?
Thank you. Speaking about Western Sahara, just to mention that Western Sahara is area of 266,000 square kilometers, bordered by Morocco from the north, Algeria from the east, Mauritania from the east and southeast, and Atlantic Ocean from the west. You can say it's a big in size. I mean, maybe bigger than England and half of France. It's very rich of minerals, natural resources, and maybe this is one of the reasons why the Morocco keen on to maintain its illegal occupation of Western Sahara, backed by big powers such France, for example. Speaking about this, the people, the Sahrawi people. Sahrawi people, I believe that there is three elements, ethnic elements, overlapped in the formation of the people Sahrawi as he is known today. These three elements, the first element is the indigenous, the Amazigh indigenous population of the territory. The second element is the Arab migration coming from Arab Peninsula. The third is African groups belonging the sub-Saharan African country, our neighbors. These three elements, the intermingling of these three elements formed the Sahrawi people with dominant Arab culture. Because in the period of assimilation of these three elements, it was obvious that the Arab elements overcome in this assimilation the rest of the two elements. But it was, as I told you, it's a simulation. That's all of them now is mixed, speaking Hassaniya dialect, driven of Arab language. So Sahrawi people speak Arab language as first language, with Hassaniya dialect. It's called Hassaniya, and Spanish as a second language, the language of the colonialism. About the history, you can say the society in general, it's as many others pre-colonial was tribal society, but with the special and specific characteristics. For instance, we can mention, for example, comparing with our neighbors, Morocco were governed by and still governed by the monarchy with absolute powers, kingdom, the monarchy with absolute power. Mauritania were governed by tribal emirates, and Algeria then was governed by Deis governors or ruler who had a specific relation with the Ottoman Empire. Meanwhile, our society, in contrast, were governed by Assembly of 40. This assembly represents the Sahrawi tribes. So this is just to mention the differences between us and our neighbors. That was pre-colonial. In the colonial power, in the colonial time, in 19th, there is some colonial attempt by Netherlands, by England, by France, but the most important colonial attempt coming from Spain. The interest of Spain to the Western Sahara was related to the protection of the Canary Islands, which is very close to Western Sahara. So in 1884, Spain proclaimed the territory, the Western Sahara, as protectorate. That proclamation was ratified by the Berlin Conference in 1885. This conference held in Berlin was interest to settle the disputed conflicts between the European powers in the partition of Africa, just like a piece of cake. It's very known, very famous conference. In that conference, the Spanish proclamation was ratified by the other European power. Of course, the Sahrawis start resisting, and the first attempt of the penetrations of the colonial was faced by a fierce resistance of the Sahrawi people. Just to mention that till 1934, Spain couldn't control all the territory till 1934. By 60s of last century, the national resistance emerged, and the objective was to put an end of the Spanish colonial. But the most important and crucial event was the formation of Polisario Front in May 10th, 1973. Polisario Front, it's abbreviation, Spanish abbreviation coming from the war in Spain, means Frente Popular de la Liberación de Sagia Alhambra y Río de Oro. So the abbreviation is coming Frente F, Polisario is the abbreviation, as I mentioned, of this the name, you know. The objective, as I mentioned before, that the objective Polisario Front is putting an end of the colonialism. But after the withdrawal of the Spanish withdrawal of the territory, Polisario continued as the legitimate representative of the Sahrawi people, continues struggling, fighting against the occupation, the invasion of the neighbors, Morocco and Mauritania, during the period of Wuldaddah. So we carry out this struggle, this armed struggle. Polisario carried out the armed struggle 16 years, since 1975 till 1991, when the Organization of African Unity and United Nations developed a plan of peace, a settlement plan with two objectives: the ceasefire and organizing a referendum. United Nations sent a mission to implement the objective of the plan, sent a mission to the territory, which is MINURSO, la Misión de Naciones Unidas para Referéndum en el Sahara Occidental. To organize this referendum, the mission of the MINURSO was of 1 year. During 1 year, end of 1992, that plan should be held, and the Sahrawi people could supposed to choose their future, their destiny, through referendum, through free, democratic, transparent referendum. What's happened that Morocco put obstacles on against the implementation of this plan, and that finally in 2004 refused a referendum as mean that allow to the Sahrawi people to choose its future, and because it's the right, it's an inalienable right for self-determination. And in 2007 proposed the autonomy. Just the same thing happened here when Indonesia, during the occupation, proposed the Timorese now autonomy. So it's the similarities between our struggle and the Timorese struggle, it's really obvious. Finally, the Morocco decided to send a military operation against the Sahrawi civilians who were peacefully demonstrating against an illegal breach in the southwest of the territory. That was for us the end of the ceasefire, and we decided to resume our armed struggle.
So what is happening now? What is the latest development?
We are in war. Polisario Front as a movement of liberation, the Sahrawi Republic declared to the world that we resume our armed struggle. The reason that after the continuous obstacles, abuses, violations of Moroccan authorities in the in the occupied cities against the civilians, but even a violation of the peace plan, the settlement plan, violation of the ceasefire, especially when Morocco decided to carry out an armed aggression, military aggression against our civilians who were demonstrating, protesting peacefully in the Guerguerat area. The Guerguerat area is in the far southwest of the territory, which linked the border, Sahrawi border and Mauritania border. Morocco decided to open a bridge as a gate, as a road for its commercial traffic. So that was as illegal. The Sahrawi population, the civilian, decided to demonstrate there against this illegal breach, but not only against the illegal breach, against the ongoing plundering of our resources, against the ongoing violations of human rights in our occupied cities by Moroccan authorities. So the Morocco decided to launch what is called military operation against these people. It was very dangerous, one of the most dangerous violation of the ceasefire and a violation of the military agreement number 1, which defined that there is only four breaches for MINURSO, no, for the traffic of MINURSO, but there is no mention of the Gargarat as traffic road or as a gate. So because of that, this aggression, which not only aggressions, Morocco decided to occupy a new territory and built a new sand berm or a sand wall to encircle the new occupied land, and to enforce the link between the border, the occupied by the wall and the Mauritania border. This is a really danger. So the Sahrawis, fed up of the position of United Nations, the inaction of the United Nations, which become day by day, year by year, just umbrella to legitimize the occupation.
The American government, especially the former president, made a statement as well before his departure from his presidency. What's the effect of that, do you think? And what should the new government do you think?
Trump's in his latest days, before he leaving the White House, decided through a tweet proclamation in which United States recognizes the so-called Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara. In return, Morocco recognizes Israel, the state of Israel, and normalized diplomatic relation with the Jewish state. So it's a deal. It's very clear that it's a deal. If we can speak about, if the two people speaking about the goods, exchanging the goods. But what is very important to mention that Trump's Western Sahara, it's not belong to Trump to deal with. It's not belong to the Morocco. So nobody but the Sahrawi people has a right to decide the future of our land, of our territory. Regarding to the legality of this proclamation, we believe that this is a null proclamation, has no legal effects on ground. It's goes against the international law, against the Charter of United Nations, the international legality. There is many resolutions adopted by United Nations. For example, the resolution 2625 of 1970, which is call upon the countries states to respect the self-determination of the countries and call upon all the states not support any aggression, any military aggression to other lands or other states or other territories, and don't recognize this kind of aggression acts. And not only that, we can speak about the resolution 1415 and all relevant resolutions regarding Western Sahara issue, because it's very clear that this resolution stated that the case of Western Sahara, the question of Western Sahara, a question of decolonization and the self-determination of the Sahrawi people. So this kind of acts, this kind of proclamations, of decisions, it violates the rights of Sahrawi people, but violates the international legality and the international law, and prevails this kind of approach, prevails the law of jungle. If we are living in jungle, so that means the power defined the result on ground. This is very dangerous, and not only that, in the United States itself, due to this proclamation, many figures, politicians, American politicians, very famous, even in the Republicans Party, Trump's belong to the Republican Party, were against this kind of decisions, and defined the decision as very dangerous decision, and it's against the legality, against the international law. For instance, we can just mention, for example, Baker, who was a personal envoy of the United Nations to Western Sahara, very expert of the issue of the Bolton, who was national advisor of United States. We mentioned Christopher Ross, who was also ambassador American, who was personal envoy of United Nations to Western Sahara. Einhoff, the Senator Einhoff, Republican, and the chairman of the Defense Committee in the Congress. There is another, Leahy, Democrat, and others. These figures, all of them were against this kind of decision, because even this decision goes against the long-standing foreign policy of United States, because since 90 till now, 3 decades of American policy was remarked by neutrality and objectively, taking consideration that United States is the penholder, as permanent member. United States was in charge to write the drafts on Western Sahara all these 3 decades. So what role could United States play after this decision? It's very dangerous. It's against even the fundamentals which United States based on, the fundamental of the right of self-determination as an inalienable right for the people. Now we hope that President Biden with the new administration, American administration, we hope that could reverse this decision and revoke this injustice decision, which goes against our, as Sahrawi people, our inalienable right, legitimate rights on self-determination, and against the Americans' fundamentals, American policy, against the international law and the international legality. From our side, we think, speaking about the effects of the decision, we think that there is no effect on ground, because we already decided the resumptions of our struggle, and we think that only us, and only us means only our people, only our army, freedom fighters army have the decision, the final decision, and we already decided to resume our war in order to achieve our final objective, which is freedom and independence.
Thank you very much for all this interesting information. Pela tetelai itania narang posição e serviço lorong saída e embaixada.
Diago, obrigada. Haunia narang Miriam Ali Hosman, sing hau hene nuler sekretaris embaixada nia, and hauni serviço lorong administração e mos controla ba staff sira ia embaixada.
Tang lorong halo saída.
Ihane hau barak leu hau diplomação ba hau ligação entre embaixador ho ministério itania ho tu del barak ho governo liu ami serviço barak leu ho ministério estrangeiro. Depois halo ligação dia ko entre embaixada dan ema halo serviço lorong.
Papel embaixador ia itabot nia serviço ne hanesenebe.
Embaixador tu irau ni hare embaixador ema idana be ke larang dia. Ono ema nebe ke luta barak liu nia durante ni hene hau kumpanya ni nia serviço hene dala barak liu nia halo serviço barak liu kon kuliah kon abasar nia luta. Nia tambah embaixada dan nia hau rekatak nia diferente husi embaixada siluk tambah nia representante husi povo Sahara niang ho di luta basiran nia hada usirnya independensia fali husi pusang makadok Maroko nia.
Agora serviço tinang hirau na ho embaixador Muhammad.
Começa serviço iha 2014 ia ne hau start depois continua tu agora.
Pessoalmente, embaixador Muhammad ne ema hanesenebe. Iha itabot nia hare.
Tuir hau nia noinye ema danebe ke nakloke ba ema tu. Depois ema idanebe ke gosta fahe buat fumba ema siluk ami liu ba ami staff ya embaixada ne. Quando ami lah tinu tidak ami husuni sempre fahe. Ya, nia sempre contra buat barak kona ba Sahara ba ami. Antong ami masa tini katak okay, ita timor ho Sahara ni niambe historia ni hane sanglos.
Obrigado, Barak. Ola, dia kalai.
Dia.
Pela conta lai itabot ne se itabot nia atividade saída ia embaixada Sahrawi.
Sim, dia. Obrigado. Hane naran Albertino Almeida Pereira Cunha. Hane sana ema academia ida e hane somos jovem fuenza ida ia Timor Leste e durante ami cria a minha organização que kuan ida nebe que fokus ba luta o fo apoio solidariedade ba povo Sahara Ocidental nebe horas nesse moris ia conflito nelar e amimos halo parceiro dia com embaixador atau hetan informação sira husi situação nebe que acontece ia Sahara Ocidental.
Tambah saída hili suporta Sahara.
Sim, tambah hau sinti ema barak confusão konaba insa Timor Leste ni apoio ba Sahara Ocidental. E dalam rumah tuir itaninia senior diplomático sira até te kata atu fo suporta ba Sahara Ocidental ne hanesan princípio ida. E depois íamos itaninia Constituição RDTL artigo 8 nomos artigo 10 nebe fo dalam baita insa atu fo solidariedade ba povo sira nebe Macamoris ia conflito nelaran especialmente ba Sahara Ocidental.
It's about the experiência pessoal. O serviço do embaixador Muhammad. Pela conta itu ang winsa ita about sente serviço muito ko diplomata ida nesania.
Sim, no dar jovem sinti orgulho teves tamba bela hetan oportunidade nebe maka furak teves hori hal discussão hamutu ko embaixador Sahara senhor Muhammad Badi e ao mesmo tempo nós atu discutir kalian lutang konaba uinsa povo Sahara nenia situação ia tempo conflito nelaran. E depois vamos ao aprender buat barak uinsa especialmente ba maneira diplomacia nenia. Uinsa para ita bele kuliah ho senhor embaixador nebe que representante usi país ida mai país Timor Leste. Depois amimos koko atu hal discussão kalian konaba uinsa Timor Leste nenia posição suporta solidariedade ba povo Sahara Ocidental.
Obrigado, Bara.
Obrigado.
The conversation with Ambassador Muhammad really helps me to understand the struggle of the Sahrawi people for freedom. And I believe you have learned something too. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the program. I'm Francis Suni and I'll see you on the next episode of Diplomata. Bye for now.